Hey, it's April 30th, 2025, and it's day 3 of the murder trial of former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Schurr here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I want to take a moment to address a comment and testimony from an expert witness on the prosecution side who made the comment that no reasonable officer would have ended up doing what Chris did in the incident that he was in, that ended up in the fatal shooting of a motorist. And that really upset me, and I decided I was going to make a video to address it as opposed to typing it out, because it was just quicker to do a video than to type out my thoughts and feelings about this. But that comment and testimony from this so-called expert witness is what we call in the industry absolute and utter bullshit. That no reasonable officer would have ended up doing what Chris did. Any officer going through the use of force continuum the way that Chris did absolutely would have ended up, especially when they felt that in fear for their lives with an individual who was stronger, bigger, and very assaultive and combative, that their life was in danger, would have ended up using lethal force. And I will share with you a personal experience very similar to this that ended very differently only because I had 2 other officers with me at the time. June 25th, early morning hours of June 25th, 2015, I am 2-3 hours away from ending a 20-year career. It was my very last patrol. And we go down the 33rd and Eastern, and we're dealing with what came across the dispatch as just a trouble with the person call. A highly intoxicated, passed out drunk, 300 some pounds, laying in someone else's sofa. They wanted him out. When we get there, they explained to us he's known to be the neighborhood bully, and he's probably likely to attack and fight the police because he's very drunk. He's a mean drunk, they tell us. We go inside the living room, and there is a massive man laying on the sofa. I immediately pulled out my taser so that I would have less lethal available in the event it goes sideways. My male partner goes up there and tries to wake him up. My female partner is standing off to the back, to the rear, in an overwatch position. This individual woke up, looked up, saw the uniforms, and immediately, before you could take a breath, attacked the male officer, picking him up and pushing him towards me, knocking me over. And as they're going by me, I had enough leverage and was ability to reach over and shoot him in the back with my taser, putting both barbs into his back, which barely fazed him. In the next moment, 3 of us are wrestling with this guy, arms, legs, ass over back. I mean, it was just a knockdown, drag-out brawl, knocking over and breaking coffee tables just like you see in the movies. I was able to reinsert my second cartridge because, like I said, it was during a twisting and rolling, the wires for the first 2 barbs severed. I could tell that there was no point in trying to give him a second application with that cartridge. Disengage that cartridge, pulled out, reinserted another cartridge, reapplied and fired those barbs into his back. And now, while he's under power, we're able to just try to get his arms behind his back. Once the 5 seconds was up, the fight was on again, but we finally got him secured. Let me tell you something. Had I been alone fighting with this behemoth of a man, drunk, angry, assaultive, combative, I promise you, I most likely would have ended up shooting him and shooting him multiple times. Because this whole idea from this expert witness that a reasonable officer would not have reached the same conclusion or reached that same decision point as Chris did, that's absolute and utter bullshit. And it's crap like that from these so-called expert witnesses that absolutely muddy up the waters. And in fact, on social media, I saw a lady who claimed to have had experience working with law enforcement. She said she was not a law enforcement officer, but she was very familiar with tasers. And she made the comment that the prongs on the taser, once the barbs have been fired and all that, don't deliver the same type of juice. She called it weak sauce. And she felt that the officer, thinking that his life could be in danger from engaging someone who potentially could have taken his taser and would have only have had the 2 the two probes on the taser, that would not have been as forceful or whatever as the two barbs from the cartridge. It immediately made me question her actual experience with tasers and so on. But here's the problem again, because she has some credibility, and because she's putting herself out there as having worked with law enforcement and being familiar with law enforcement and so on, there are people who are absolutely going to suck this up, and hey, that taser is not potentially a lethal force a tool. I can tell you from when I went through the training and I got hit with the barbs, it's a mind-numbing pain. For the friends of mine and colleagues of mine who took the drive stun, they also tell me it was an unbelievable amount of pain in that area. So this idea that the two prongs, the probes on the prongs on the taser after the cartridge has been fired and all that, deliver weak sauce. Oh my gosh. All right, so anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. You can see where it was quicker for me to just do a video than to type this all out. But that expert witness's comment that no reasonable officer would have ended up to the same conclusion, the way that situation evolved, is just absolute and utter bullshit. Because I can tell you, then there's a whole lot of us that are not reasonable officers then. But anyone going through the use of force continuum, the way Chris did, the way a lot of us did, and so on, who've been there, done that, can tell you that there's a very, very good chance we absolutely would have come to the same conclusion Chris did in that moment, at that time, on that date, on that hour. That's all.